Important decisions for a bride is, well, in many cases, the dress. It seems a bit vain to say that, but frankly, if you're going to get married, well, you want to pick the right one, don't you? My next guest says she's always been interested in beautiful women wearing beautiful dresses, and she now has launched her own collection. Her story doesn't start here, though. After growing up in Zimbabwe, she moved to England when she was 10. Karen Younger is a wedding dress designer who's recently launched her latest collection here in Derby, and she's brought in just a couple of those beautiful dresses which the women on the team are just kind of going, oh, they're lovely. There is something about a wedding dress that just, it's magical, isn't it? Really is.
Yeah.
Let's talk about life as it started for you then. Born in Zimbabwe, lived there till age of about 10, was it?
Yeah, I was about 10 then.
What was early life like for you then? Have you got fond memories?
Yeah, I've got amazing memories of being in Zimbabwe, actually. It's funny because a lot of people always ask me, they kind of put their tone down a bit, like, oh, you were born in Zimbabwe. What was life like in Zimbabwe? And actually, I had an amazing childhood.
What do they mean by that then, do you think?
I think it's probably a lot to do with what you see in the media of most African countries, really. So, you know, people starving and the poverty and the riots and stuff like that. But I didn't really witness any of that when I was growing up in Zimbabwe. I actually had a really, really good childhood. And yeah, I had a fairly decent life there, actually.
It's interesting that you've gone into bridal wear, and we're going to talk about the launch of your new label,
yeah,
and why you've chosen bridal gowns. When I was kind of researching you and looking up kind of weddings in Zimbabwe, I had in mind that the gowns would be these amazing colours, different fabrics, but in actual fact, the wedding images that it brings up when you're looking on a search engine are very much the same sort of gowns we'd have here in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'd be amazed. It's quite the opposite of what people expect. It's kind of your normal white, traditional, what I'd say English wedding dress. That's what people wear in Zimbabwe when they get married. I mean, some people will choose to have two gowns, so they'll have a traditional Zimbabwean wedding dress, which might have some African print fabric, but then they'll always have the traditional white dress as well.
We'll talk about where your interest in fashion came from in a moment, but I'm just wondering, it's an interesting story as to how you came here to the UK, because your mum came here first,
yeah,
and left you with your grandparents.
Yeah, well, it was with my dad, and then my dad came, and then I was with my grandparents after that.
So how long was that transition period, and why did it happen that way?
Well, my mum, she'd always wanted to be a nurse, but I think in Zimbabwe it's a lot harder. You have to get higher grades to be able to actually become a nurse. So I think she wasn't able to achieve the grades that she needed, so she ended up going into teaching. But then there was a time in England when there was like a nurse shortage, so they were recruiting from other countries. So that's when my mum got the opportunity to actually come and be a nurse in England, and then she left me and my brothers and my sisters in Zimbabwe, and I was mostly at boarding school. It was about 2 years before, between the time that my mum came and the time that me and my brothers and my sisters actually came.
Because that's a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time.
At your young age as well, you know, your mum not being around must have been quite tough.
I was in boarding school since I was 7 years old, so
you weren't aware.
Yeah, I've always been quite independent, so it wasn't really. I was fine, and then I was with of course, like when I wasn't in boarding school, I was with my grandma, and she was just amazing. So yeah, it was fine.
So she became like the mother figure until you were reunited again.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it felt like when you first came over here and what life was like? How did it compare? The differences?
Gosh. It was so different. I had this vision of what England would be like before I came. I remember thinking, because I knew that this is so stupid, but the one thing that I really remember was that I wanted to see snow in real life, and I wanted to try it. I wanted to eat it. That was just something that I really, really wanted to do. So when I came, it was like around winter time. It was really cold, and I remember it was snowing, and I tasted it, and it tasted nothing like how I expected it to taste. I remember that.
Did you think it was going to be like ice cream or something?
Yeah, it looked like it would taste, I don't know, it just looked like it would taste different. But yeah, I don't know why, I always remember that. I remember that. Everything was just different. Everything seemed so... It was a magical time, actually, when I moved to England. It was very different, but in a good way as well.
I was going to say, it's nice that you say it's a magical time, because actually, I suppose there are moments where, you know, you're starting in a completely new country, completely different weather, as you've just pointed out, completely different schooling, and, you know, new friends to make, and you're of that age where actually you're very aware of that, because being age kind of 10, 11, starting to move into those terrible teenage years, that must have been quite difficult to adjust for you.
Do you know what? I think it was the excitement was just so much. Like, I was just really excited about everything. I was excited to start a new life. I was excited to make new friends. I was excited to try different... I mean, everything was very different to what I was used to, but I don't ever remember a time I felt like, okay, this is so different, it's becoming difficult for me. I was just excited. I was just really excited to be in England and just to be trying all these different new things and living this new life. So yeah, more than difficult, it was more exciting, really.
It was an adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the impression you're the kind of person who likes to take on the adventure, though.
I absolutely do, always.
Hence what's happening now, the next exciting phase in your life. We're going to talk about your fashion label. We're going to talk about the dresses, which are beautiful. We've got them a couple of them hanging up in the studio at the moment. So we'll talk a bit more with Karen on BBC Radio Derby after this. Karen Jonga, she's a wedding dress designer, award-winning Derby fashion designer as well. Her latest collection, well, she's focusing on wedding dresses. A couple of them are hanging up in the studio. Actually, you know, Karen, we were just mentioning a moment ago, it amazes me when you walk past some of these bridal shops, or you might happen to look in a magazine and there's an advert for bridal gowns. It amazes me how many ugly ones there are out there. I mean, I don't know how it's possible to go wrong with a wedding dress, and yet people seem to manage it.
Yeah. I guess maybe they're just kind of trying to cater for everybody out there, so people
all
have
in one
different
dress.
tastes.
That's not possible, is it? I mean, you must have seen some terrible... I mean, you must do research.
Yeah,
you must
absolutely.
have seen some awful things.
Absolutely. I mean, before I started designing my collection, I was kind of doing lots of research just to see what else was out there, you know, so I can see if there's a gap in the market. And I did come across some very questionable designs. You know, some dresses are can be just really over the top. It's like lots of different designs put into one dress and it's just not quite working, or the wrong top part with the wrong bottom part, or just sometimes it could be they've just used the wrong model. You know, I think designers also have to think about the models that they're going to use to model their dresses in order to do their dresses justice, and sometimes it's just picking the wrong model can be a big
I mean, I would imagine the whole idea of showing your label and showing your fashion is quite a stressful process, because you've got to do these fashion shows and these wedding fairs, for example, with your beautiful gowns, to get your name out there, haven't you, and get the product out there.
Absolutely.
Is it quite a scary process, though? I mean, like you say, it's even down to picking. If you pick the wrong model, then you've ruined your chances.
Yeah, it can be very stressful. When I was organising the photo shoot for this collection, it kind of took months for me just to pick the right girls. That I mean, of course, my collection it's different shapes, so I had to think about exactly which model would work best with which dress as well. And I was also trying to kind of cater for everybody, so have models that can represent every kind of body shape as well. And then when it came to doing the wedding fairs, of course I'd never done a wedding fair before, so that was really daunting, and going in there amongst other designers that have been doing this for years and years and years and years, and you know, I'm a new wedding dress designer and this is my first wedding fair, how is it gonna go? But yeah, it was actually, I mean, I remember my very first one, it actually went amazingly well, actually. And I guess that just goes down to having a good product.
Well, exactly right. I mean, you say about keeping things. Well, you've hinted at keeping things simple. What's really lovely, and it's hard for me to describe dress. It's probably better for you, the expert, to describe. There's a lot of detail in both of the dresses I'm seeing in front of me, but yet they still come across that the whole effect of them seems quite simple.
Yeah.
And that's obviously what you're aiming for. Because I mean, the more simple it is, the more elegant, I always think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's obviously what you're looking for.
Hmm. I mean, that's how my design work has always been. I always try and keep things really classy and really elegant, really nice and feminine. I don't like to do too much or over the top.
You don't want to meringue, do you, basically?
No, I'm not about the meringue, no.
I'm so glad you said that. These dresses are handmade.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% handmade.
So there's no kind of knocking hundreds off in one fell swoop.
No.
Each one is handmade.
Each one is handmade in the studio in Derby. Every single part of it. None of that China stuff, no.
So, I mean, I know you don't kind of just sit down and work on one dress solidly. You'll be kind of working on several at a time, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But can you give me an idea of how long it would take, the process for one dress? If you were just to sit down and work on it, how long would it take?
Okay, so it would take anything from a week to 2 weeks to just kind of focus on just one dress from start to finish.
That seems quite quick.
Yeah. See, people are always shocked about that as well. But if you think how many hours... See, I think my other thing is I don't work normal hours, so it's not just like 9 to 5. I like to work I'm very productive in the morning and very productive in the evening, so I have breaks kind of in the afternoon. So if I was to go into the studio and start working on something at like 7 in the morning, which is quite normal to me, at like 7 in the morning, finish in the afternoon, and then I come back again in the evening. If you calculate how many hours that is over a whole week, that's quite a lot of hours. And if you did that like in 2 weeks, that's kind of how long it would take me.
Where did this interest in dressmaking start? Who inspired you to do it?
I've always really been into fashion from a really, really young age. I think it was from my mum, just watching my mum, the way that she used to dress. She was very fashionable, and I used to think, oh gosh, when I grow up, I want to be just like that, you know, wearing the lovely dresses with high heels. She definitely inspired me. So I'd kind of spend hours just doodling and doing sketches of what I thought at the time was gorgeous women wearing gorgeous dresses. And then the time that I spent with my grandmother, she actually taught me to hand stitch. So I would kind of take some of her old clothes and rip them apart and then try and stitch something new together. And then, it just went on from there, really. So from a really, really young age, I was always really interested in fashion.
And you moved to the UK, you went to Coventry first of all,
Yeah.
but you came to the University of Derby to study fashion.
Yeah.
And you've stayed here ever since?
Yes, I have. I love Derby
And
now.
well, that's what we like to hear. And are you still using students from the university to help you with making your dresses now?
Yeah, well, I mean, the tutors at Derby Uni have been amazing. They actually have my business as like a recommended work experience business to go to. So they'll send me interns. I mean, I like even right now I've got interns from Derby Uni working for me. So I always have interns coming in to help out. And they seem to learn a lot as well from doing the dressmaking, because I guess when you're at university, because everybody wants to, we're all doing fashion, but we all want to specialize in something different. Some people want to do styling, some people actually want to do dressmaking, some people want to do buying. So you don't really get to really focus on just the dressmaking side of things. Now, the students that they'll send to me are the ones that are really interested in dressmaking. So then it's just every day they're coming in and they're making dresses, and they're making lots and lots of dresses. And before the end of it, they're amazed at what they're actually capable of doing, and they're amazed at how many dresses they've managed to make in the space of time that they've been with me.
What would be, well, I'll put this again. Who would be the dream person you would love to see wearing one of your wedding dresses?
Oh my God, I haven't really thought about that.
Because if you got a celebrity in one of your dresses, you don't ever have to advertise again, do you?
No. That would be amazing.
That's the ultimate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there anyone getting married? Any celebrity?
Well, do you know who I do absolutely love? But it's too late now because she's already gotten married. But it would have been Angelina Jolie. But it's too late now because she just got married not long ago.
Well, you never know what the future might hold.
Well, let's not wish anything bad on her.
Although she is married to Brad Pitt, so it's unlikely she's going to change
it's
that.
Unlikely, isn't it?
Well, you know, we can dream. Sorry, Angelina. We're not wishing badly on your marriage.
No, not at all.
Karen Jonga, great to meet you, and good luck.
Thank you
with
very
the
much.
collection.
It was lovely meeting you too.
Great collection. Beautiful dresses, of course.